This is James Blackman Jr., former Indiana Hoosier. Make sure you're keeping up with the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat.
Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville with hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Of course, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Friday, September 27th. Last Friday of September. Holy cannolis. Must be football season. Tom Brew from Sports Illustrated Indiana joins me now. Tom, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jay. How are you this morning?
Doing wonderful. Getting ready for tomorrow's big football game as Indiana heads north to East Lansing, Michigan to take on the Spartans, part of that vaunted Big Four of the Big Ten East. Indiana's second test out of that group. The first one didn't go so well against Ohio State, but of course Ohio State's a team I fully expect to see fighting for a national championship playoff spot at the end of the season. Michigan State started off with a little bit of trouble, loss at home to Arizona State. We watched that game, but they bounced back with a win at Northwestern. But I think this is a winnable game for Indiana.
I do too. I've had this one circled from the beginning. You know, for me, the theme of this year has been, can Indiana start to make its move up the ladder in this division a little bit? And to do that means going to places like Michigan State and coming out with a win. And now the Spartans, they're 2 touchdown favorites, but I think if Indiana, they need to have a nice clean game and play well. But I do think they can go up there and win.
Yeah, if I was a betting man, I'd say take Indiana in the points because that spread seems a little bit much to me, especially if Michael Penix is able to go because he brings to the table something that has been an Achilles heel for Michigan State, the deep pass threat.
Well, here's one thing, Jim, that I've been waiting to talk to you about all week is because you're going to be stunned by this. When I was on a radio show up in East Lansing earlier in the week, the guys up there, they both want to see Penix play because they don't like Ramsey and all his accurate little short passes and all those yards after the catch that Indiana got on him last year. They're hoping that Penix plays, and it shocked me. And I know you're just the opposite there, especially you to go. But I was shocked on Monday night when they were talking about how they were more afraid of Peyton Ramsey than they were Michael Penix.
Yeah, it is surprising, but I think that they may not be watching this team play yet. But we'll see. Maybe I think because Michigan State does such a good job of short field defense that those short passes kind of fall into that line. Now, if having all those using 10 different guys receiving balls, that creates headache for a defense. So, and that also falls into the line. The last question that I asked Tom Allen in his weekly presser yesterday was, is it a possibility that we see both quarterbacks? And maybe that could be even a bigger headache for Michigan State.
Yeah. Well, you have to remember, too, that like last year, Walt Phillier had 13 catches against them. And a lot of those were short passes, that he, had good yards for the yards after catch. And Peyton Ramsey threw for 274 yards against him. So it's, he has proven that he can move the ball against them if he has to play, and we'll see. To me, the biggest thing is Michigan State's defense, against the run is just really, really tough. So there's got to be a creative game plan on offense, and then on defense, Michigan State's offense has really struggled, a lot in the last couple of years. I just think it's real important for Indiana to play well defensively early, maybe try to get a lead and force Michigan State to play from behind. I think that's the best way to approach this. And hopefully that's the way it plays out.
Yeah, and not only that offensive line for a running game that has not really gotten on track this year. They did okay against UConn, but that was UConn. But they have to be able to protect the quarterback no matter who it is. If it's Peyton Ramsey or Michael Penix, he's got to be able to throw the ball.
Absolutely, and because Michigan State, Kenny Willick that kid's tough, man. It's just really good. He's going to need to command double teams and. Tight ends chipping here and there, and running backs helping when need be. But there's one little factor so far that I've been impressed with. Indiana's running backs, obviously, we haven't had big rushing games yet, but they've been really good in the passing game, picking up blitzes and such. So it's going to be a real critical day for that as well. They've really got to be on point and being well aware and it's all about, a lot of film work and a lot of game planning, to have all those blitz packages ready. And, they've all been really good, in blocking and, in the passing game. So it's going to be a big week for that. They need to do a good job there too.
Yeah, I had Chris Solari from the Detroit Free Press on yesterday, and he actually covered Kalen DeBoer previously from when he was up in those South Dakota days. Actually, both the offensive coordinators in this game are from that area and come from a similar background. So they have a little bit of familiarity, but Kalen DeBoer is still unleashing this package onto the Big Ten. And with it being only the fifth game of the season for Indiana, we haven't seen everything that they're going to unleash yet.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this is one of the first times we're going to, I mean, obviously, the Ohio State game just got away from Indiana just so fast that there wasn't really a lot that Kalen DeBoer could show us in that game after it got away from him. So, so I'm real curious to see what he's got here. I mean, I'm thinking, there's got to be, a lot of play action passes in the game plan, a lot of RPOs, where they're just try to catch Michigan State off guard a little bit, make them hesitate for just a second, because I think front seven of theirs is really good, and Joe Bashy, that middle linebacker, growing up, as a Chicago guy growing up, always watching great middle linebackers play in the pro level. I mean, I love watching that kid play. He's just a hard-nosed guy. He can go sideline to sideline. I think he had 14 tackles last week. He's just really, really good, and it's, so you got to make it, you got to have some deception, and you got to do some, sometimes you just need to run on throwing downs and throw on running downs and just try to keep them off balance. And this defense has been prone to some big plays. So we'll have to see if, how that plays out.
Yeah, on the other side of the ball, Michigan State, led by a veteran quarterback in Brian Lewerke, hasn't done a lot, to be honest with you. They had a better game against Northwestern last week, but offensively, they've been a little bit challenged this year.
Well, and it's just, to be honest, if you look closely last week, that score is deceiving, because they still only had, I think, 250 something yards of total offense. That was it. They did not move the ball very well, but Northwestern's offense was even worse, and they had a lot of short fields, and they were very productive, in the red zone, which is obviously what it's all about, scoring points. But it wasn't like they lit it up. I think they had just under 100 yards rushing, and Lewerke is a veteran, but this team has had 5 games in the last year and a half where they scored 10 points or less. And that's number one in the country, for ineffectiveness. And, so, I mean, this is not an offense that scares people. And, even with the change in coordinators, I mentioned early in the year, Michigan State doesn't really fire people and bring in new ideas. They just shuffle the chairs on the Titanic a little bit. They've got they got a new offensive coordinator in Brad Salem, who's been the running backs coach there for 10 years. But the 2 coordinators who preceded him are still on the staff. So it's Mark D'Antonio's philosophy to be conservative and to run the ball, but they just haven't been able to do that very well the last few years. And so they've changed coordinators, but they're still for the most part doing the same stuff. There's a little bit more up-tempo things here and there, but not too much. It's still Mark D'Antonio, old school Michigan State football, and like I said, that offense doesn't scare me. So I'm really curious to see how Indiana's defense bounces back after being embarrassed against Ohio State, and that's why I'm thinking Indiana's got a good chance, because I think that defense is going to play really well and keep Michigan State at bay enough that that maybe Indiana, maybe 20 points or 24 points is enough for Indiana to win this game.
Yeah, 2 things. It's going to be a stiff test for this young defensive line of Indiana. They've got to get in there and keep some pressure on Lewerke when he goes back to pass, and they're going to have to do as good a job as they can on stopping that run. Indiana's got a decent secondary that is continuing to grow each and every week. So if they can get some pressure on Lewerke, I think that they can have some success on that side of the ball. But then offensively, they've also got to do the same thing. It's got to come down to the lines on both sides of the ball in this game.
Absolutely. And I think, I think that their pride was really wounded in that Ohio State game, because they just got lit up, series after series after series. giving up 7 touchdowns. And, so I really think they're going to come out, with a chip on their shoulder, really wanting to show something. And, as I mentioned earlier, there's no comparison between this Michigan State offense and the Ohio State offense that lit them up. So it's, I'm expecting big things out of Indiana's defense this week. And, it's time for them to make a statement. Kane Womack talked about that after the Ohio State game, that it's, enough is enough. And here's that enough is enough challenge now. It's like, go prove something that matters, and go on the road in the Big Ten, in a hostile environment, and find a way to get a win, in a tough place, in a tough spot.
Absolutely. And one thing that we've got to keep in mind, too, Indiana's offensive line took a major hit last week with the loss of Coy Crunk, a senior, an anchor on that line, one of the veterans that they had. They don't have a lot of depth there, so they're going to have to do some patchwork on that offensive line this week.
Yeah, I'm curious because, I guess the one thing that helped a little bit, you never want to see a guy go out like that, but what helped a little bit was he did get hurt pretty early in that game last week. So they were able to rotate a few guys through there at left tackle, and everybody got a feel for it. It's Caleb Jones moved over there from the right side for a little while, and Matt Bedford, the true freshman who's going to have a great career here, he got a taste, and Devontae Love's going to get some action there. So I think it's going to sort of be a left tackle by committee thing, but it really concerns me when Willikis lines up on that side, and when you got a first team All Big Ten, All American candidate guy going up a fresh left tackle, but I'm sure Indiana's well aware of that as well, and I'm sure they're game planning, to deal with that accordingly. But I thought those guys, when watching the tape of the UConn game, I thought those guys actually played pretty well. Now I know it's UConn, but Peyton Ramsey sat back in that pocket all day long and, never got dirty, so it's like, the offensive line did a pretty good job. Now, obviously it's a huge step up in talent, but we'll have to see. I mean, all we can go by are those 3 quarters from last week, and, they weren't bad. They did their job. So they're going to have to do their job this week too. But like I said, I think you'll see a lot of double teams on that side and a lot of help coming from a variety of places, and with the tight ends and the backs, and sliding protections that way whenever they can.
Absolutely. And then, of course, you've got a piece out right now. I noticed that Indiana is 1-20 against the Big Four of the Big Ten East over the last few years. They've got they've got to take that step up, like you said. It's time.
They sure do. Yeah.
The talk has got to end.
A lot of the piece was all about how that line of demarcation. There's a top 4 and a bottom 3, and it's been that way for 5+ years. I mean, Maryland, Rutgers, and Indiana are combined 5-51 against those Big Four, and really none of the 5 wins were overly impressive, because 2 of them came against that really bad Michigan team in 2014 that got Brady Hoke fired, and 2 of them were against that Michigan State team in 2016 where there were injuries galore and they went 3-9. And the other one was a Maryland win over Penn State their first year in the league when Penn State was still reeling from all their scholarship reductions. So it's, there's like the bottom 3 is never threatened, but it's time for them to do that. It's just it's time for somebody to try to make some noise. And I think Indiana's the best of those 3 on the bottom, to be able to do that. And but we'll find out. I mean, that's the joy of it. In about 29 hours or so, they'll kick it off, and we'll see what they got.
Absolutely. That's anything you got, but that piece that just came out today, I assume, that you put out.
Yeah, I just posted that one this morning, and it's really good, lots of good details, and just a lot of what it takes to go up there and win, and it's a few comments too about what matters too up there is that Indiana's starting to recruit a little bit better up in the state of Michigan. They've got some good players on this team right now, and they got their top recruit from next year's a Detroit kid. So to go up to Michigan and play well and win up there would be a huge boost for recruiting up there as well. So that's there. And then, of course, we have our usual Friday afternoon package, things I want to see from the Hoosiers tomorrow. Got a couple fresh videos coming up, too. And then, of course, we'll be up there in East Lansing tomorrow for the game. And all sorts of live coverage from East Lansing tomorrow.
Absolutely. We will see you up north, man. Have a safe trip.
All right, Jim. We'll see you at the game.
Hey, thanks for listening to the rebroadcast from today's edition of Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle, the only daily show dedicated to Indiana University athletics. You can catch us live each weekday on indianasportsbeat.com, thedailyhoosier.com, growingtruth.com, or go to Spreaker.com for live notifications. Yeah, that's speaker with an R, Spreaker.com. You can also catch the entire show any place you listen to a podcast, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, etc. You can find and follow the show on Facebook or follow me on Twitter at Jim Coyle ISB for complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers. Thanks again. I hope you have a great day. I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.